Hello and welcome to another edition of the UnCalled Four. I hope you enjoy this evening. We're going to be doing the cults again, and we're going to start where we left off in that last video because we had such a great time with it. So let me get right around the room so we can get right started. And we're going to start with our special guest, we shouldn't even just consider a guest. She's family. It's Glober Mom. How are you tonight, Glober Mom?
Hey, I'm good. Happy to be back again.
Excellent. We're glad to have you back. I'm so excited. This is going to be so much fun.
It is.
Thank you. And next up, we have Vishanti. Vishanti, how are you tonight?
Coming out of cosplay hell. I'm almost done with all of my stuff, and if I can get it done tonight, I will begin packing, and I can't believe I'm saying that because I never finish before I have to pack. I'm always up all night the night before my flight. I'm always hand sewing on the plane. I'm always like painting in the room, so let's hope I can do this. I got this.
You got this. You got this.
You got this. You can do this. This is going to be awesome. And next up, we have Bad Astra. Astra, how are you tonight?
I'm doing really well. Just got back from a road trip. So for the first time in several weeks, I've had reliable internet. And I noticed that I am only 4 subscribers away from 900. So that's very exciting. And mainly I'm just very zonked, and you're going to get some loopy takes.
Awesome.
I'll make it more fun.
Exactly. That's the best part. And last but not least, we have the man fiddling the buttons again, Dick Dawson. How are you tonight?
Hey, I'm good. I'm even more into my recovery and back to good health, and I've got a Mike's Hard Black Cherry Lemonade going right now, and wow, these things are awesome. If you don't know hard, it means it's alcoholic. It's not, as in Dawson hard. It's alcohol hard.
I don't think you drink anything virgin.
No. That's why I don't bother with breakfast cereal. It just doesn't work with barley mill beers.
What about a White Russian? Oh my God, you guys! What if you made cereal with a White Russian?
Oh, I'm all over it tomorrow morning. Yep.
I'm sure somebody has.
I don't know if that's the best idea I've ever had or the worst.
Worst.
It's both. That's why it's brilliant.
Oh, definitely not.
Oh, that's great. I'm not sure how that's going to taste, though.
Yeah,
I'm just
the alcohol,
that.
alcohol and cereal. Yeah, no.
I don't know if you really care how things taste if you're drinking a White Russian for breakfast. So
True.
Well, you could do it separate from the cereal. That would be perfect.
You
could. Could work.
I got this. It's Cocoa Puff cereal or Reese peanut butter cereal. That stuff would work great.
Puffs with a mudslide.
There you go. There you go.
Flavored. Yeah, you're probably
Too much
right.
chocolate?
Yeah.
Death by chocolate, life by alcohol.
That's awesome.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man.
Oh my gracious, that's good. All right. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I was thinking the idea was to continue with the same video from Margaret Singer, that what is a cult and how does it work, correct?
Yes.
Yes, I believe that's yes.
All right. There was a timestamp saved. Thank you, Vishanti. And I've pulled it about 15 seconds back from there just so that if anybody, needs the refresher, well, 15 seconds should do it, right?
Sure.
Perfect.
Not too much. I think we get the idea. We'll get the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see what happens here because I think everything's set, right? And we should be able to just go right back into it. Let me get the monitor strip up. I actually feel like I'm a little out of sorts because I missed 1 week of doing this. How can that be? How can that be? Okay, yeah.
It happens.
Yeah, but I've done enough of it. Like it's just funny. That's Anyway, I should shut up now and play the video. So that's what I'm gonna do. And this is the cool chick. Yeah. This is that cool chick in cults and pay attention, people. Keep up. Come on.
Just the effects of prolonged chanting and overbreathing.
MLMs actually use a lot of chanting and overbreathing in their like
Yeah.
bonding time, and that's actually been identified as one of the obvious like reasons they're a cult.
Oh, okay.
Not by scientists, just by like all of anti-MLM YouTube.
Right.
All right, I'll play it
Jones,
in.
along with many cult leaders, used a spy system, and they still keep on using them today. Jim Jones had a spy system in place in which people came to him and they tattled. They told tales on everybody else in order to get in his good graces. And then it would make it seem when he would be talking to his group as if he got these messages by some superhuman means. And he would say, so-and-so, has been thinking lecherous thoughts about so-and-so. And in most cults, people have told me while they were in, they tattled all the time on their friends. Cult leaders are able to induce guilt in their followers by almost any means possible. If you think your mother and dad or your aunt or your uncle or your grade school teachers were good at making you feel guilty, cult leaders do differently than our parents and the teachers. They take the power of the whole group and turn it against the person that they're putting on the hot seat and making them feel guilty. It's very rare that, in a schoolroom that the teacher gets the whole class pointing and chanting, sinner, sinner, sinner.
That's
and,
some Aunt Lydia
so on.
shit.
But cult leaders
Yeah.
get very effective at turning the group to help make you feel more guilty. And then by having people who inform, it makes you feel guilty that you had even thought of anything, because through the tattling network, the cult leader hears your innermost secrets that you only told your lady friend in the next room, or that you told your husband or you told your wife. So you get to feeling guilty for even thinking thoughts that would get you in trouble with the cult leader. So the more and more you're made to feel anxious and guilty, the more and more you suppress any critical ideas toward the cult or the leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Scientology
Good.
right there.
Good God. Did you guys hear about Laura Prepon? She kind of officially left
Did
Scientology.
she?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
She
Apparently
did.
she hasn't been going very much for the last couple years, and then kind of just made it official within the
Okay.
last week or two. So, yeah. And that's a big deal. She's one of the
her.
big, like, super
Good for her.
proponents. So.
She just had a
Yeah.
child
Yeah.
too, so
Oh,
good
yeah.
for her.
Wow.
Telling you. One at a time, man.
Yeah, one at a time. That's what you got to do.
Yep. Exactly. And thank goodness she was able to pull out of that. So
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. Still not going to be easy for her, but at least she's aware.
Yeah.
no.
I don't know
Right.
if they're going to start doing the whole chasing her
Well, I forget what
down
they
and
call
making
it.
her
There's
live
a
on
term they use for it where they stalk you and stuff afterwards. I forget the
They
Yeah.
did that. Squirrel hunters, they've done that whole thing before
Yeah,
with people who have
yeah.
left, but they were way higher up than her, so I don't know.
Wow.
Wow, that's crazy.
She's going to have a lot of work ahead of her.
She's smart.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel
Oof.
for her because that's not going
I
to be
do
fun.
too. I do too.
Yeah.
So, oh my goodness.
Shall I play it in?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Already.
Wayne.
The reason a cult leader or a group leader creates an enemy is to get tighter bonding within the group. Every cult practically is an us against them, so that if it's a Bible-based group, the outside world are sinners and satanic and bad folks, and we are the good ones. If it's a psychological cult, some of the psychology-based cults say we're all sane, everybody out there is insane.
Okay.
It's bonding and tightening of group cohesion to have the outside world or specific enemy targets in the world, and then the group tightly together.
Notice
Most
how this is
people want-
also a tactic that abusive partners use.
Yes,
Because
yes.
it separates you from your support system, because if everyone
friends,
else
your
is
family.
insane,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yep.
And like cult leaders are abusers, because if you were dating someone
Yes.
who said, oh, well, your entire family's insane, all of your friends are insane, only the two of us are like the people who get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
But there are so many movies that glorify that. And here's the thing, if you're over the age of 15, that's not just teenage nonsense. That's abusive, controlling, manipulative, and awful, and can lead people to do terrible, crazy things.
They
Yes,
have.
it can. Because that's emotional abuse.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And so if anyone ever tells you you are in this group because only you get it, everybody else is either out to get you or idiots or insane, anytime like, and they'll make you feel so good. Like you'll be like, oh, well, they can't be abusive. They're talking me up. They're making me feel good about myself.
Right.
That is called love bombing. And it is usually directly followed by terrible shit. Like, oh, well, if you believe this, then maybe you are one of them. It's cutting off your support so that you are weak and have nowhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. They make you
Absolutely.
dependent on them. Exactly. Oh, okay.
I see MLMs do this shit all the time. Where
Yes.
they're like, oh, well, if they won't join the MLM, if they won't buy your products, if they won't be recruited by you, you shouldn't talk to them ever again. Yeah. Oh, your sister doesn't like that you're in this MLM? Well, she doesn't believe in you.
Right, right,
Doesn't
right.
want you
Right.
sinking another $1,000 in debt. Well, she doesn't love you. She doesn't
Yep,
want
yep,
you to be successful.
Wow.
Yep.
Ah,
That sounds
crazy.
about right too. It is.
gosh.
Play it in then.
Yes, please.
Play to go.
All
in
right.
this film will not realize the heady power that cult leaders have of having people just pay attention to them. It must be a heady feeling. And so in order to maintain that relationship, the cult leaders have to denigrate the outside world, put it down, make it seem unsafe. Often cult leaders tell members that if they leave the group, they will die of cancer, that their mothers, fathers, relatives will have terrible disasters happen to them. They tell them they'll never get to heaven, that they'll never be able to get their karma handled. They have all kinds of ways of making the outside world seem like something that one shouldn't affiliate with.
Damn.
There's a manipulation of rewards, punishments, and experiences so that you will stop exhibiting a lot of your behavior that you brought to the cult because they want to change you to a way they want you to appear. Cults often change members' names. This is a way of taking your old identity away from you and giving you the first step toward your new pseudo-identity, your new cult identity that you're to carry out. So those new names are to help split you away from your past.
Yep, that's more isolation.
Almost without exception, each cult develops its own lingo, its own jargon. The purpose of that is to give the people some idea that they're joining this very special group that talks in a certain way and has certain knowledges. It has a second purpose. It separates those people from talking with their family, their friends, because
Yep.
they have to speak two Englishes. the English that's used in their cult, in which language is used in a very different way than in the outside world, and then having to almost translate their thoughts after they've been speaking cult jargon for a long time into everyday English.
You notice this in a lot of so-called tech startups too. You notice this in a lot of, yeah, like for example, there was a documentary. Well, it wasn't really a tech startup; it was a real estate company, WeWork.
Okay.
That startup.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
If you've seen the documentary, I think there were two actually, but there is debate over whether it was a cult because it had so much lingo. MLMs have this much lingo. Like there are so many cult-like things that, I mean, even big companies like Amazon, Walmart, etc., they all have this special lingo, and it's kind of it's not even a binary from like cult to non-cult. It's a spectrum, and like somewhere down the line of the spectrum is branding, like everything, like for example, the iPhone, the like iPad, like that's branding. Like what Apple does is branding. That's not like cult lingo because everybody knows it, but it's very specific Apple specific lingo.
Okay.
And then you get further down the line and say your company changes what all of the names of its levels are, so that you don't know, so that on your resume no one else could see, oh, well, you were a senior project manager. It would say like top person developer, like, so it's harder to hire you away. Like that's further spectrum.
Okay. Yeah.
And then like it can go all the way to like MLMs where like positions are like sometimes named after gemstones. So like forget getting another job because it like, oh,
diamond level, platinum level.
Exactly.
You know.
Yep.
I was a diamond level for 2 years, and there's like, okay, but this is a like real estate firm. What do you do?
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Instead of associate broker or whatever.
Exactly. And it can get more and more twisted until it's like functionally another language, like what she's talking about. But I think it's important that we acknowledge that it's a spectrum, not necessarily a binary.
Right.
Right. Exactly. There's a gray area in everything. And there's nuance in so much. And I think that's what a lot of us tend to forget. And sometimes that's a hard thing in our household to grasp as well. So but there are gray areas everywhere.
Yeah,
so
nuance. If you don't get it, yeah, you're right. You're not gonna. I mean, I'm experiencing that now in some of the things I've been putting out. People coming back at me and with these comments, I'm like, you just don't get it. You know?
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
So, there's not much I can do about that.
Yeah. And not everywhere on the spectrum is a bad thing. Like branding is fun. Like I work for a company where like I work for a university, so the initials of the university come before like everything we say. So it's initial this thing. But I can still write on my resume, oh, I did this, and that's legible. My title is senior program coordinator. Like it's a normal ass title.
Right.
It's like
clear what you did.
And that's fun. It's when you get a little too far along the spectrum that it gets problematic.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. When they have no clue what you did there, it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, something's wrong here. Should we keep going?
The video?
Normal, sequential, reflective thinking. Because if you're in a cult and you're asked something by the cult leader and you might want to say, no, I don't want to do that, you have to translate that into the cult jargon that says, I will do your bidding. So that you have to get rid of the negative, break up all that thinking that went with what you were asked, and reformulate what you're supposed to say. If you and I were in a cult, we would be talking abstractions and jargon that doesn't always have real visualizable images and pictures, and yet we'd have to act as if we really understood each other. one of the reasons cult leaders and closed, intense groups develop these abstract languages is that when we're a properly civilized person, we think we should be able to follow what someone says, and it's our fault if we don't. So we sort of turn inwardly. And in a way, if we're the least bit prone to trance induction, we're actually assisting the cult leader in our own trance induction by turning inwardly and seeking the meaning, trying to put more meaning into these abstract phrases. In many cultic groups, the leader speaks a lot in imagery and allegories in which he will describe the entire outer world as not pious, or as satanic, or as unenlightened. And it's part of stopping reflective thinking, meaning he doesn't want them to think about what are they doing here giving their life to him. What are they doing giving their money, obeying, letting him beat their kids, have sex with their daughters? He doesn't want them doing that kind of reflective thought. So that the more that leaders speak in globalities, the more they keep you from thinking critically. And then pretty soon, you're almost trained like a pet dog. He speaks of Satan, and everybody knows you're supposed to think the outside world is bad because the leader just used that charged word.
One other thing that she didn't mention is there have been a lot of recent studies that show that the language you use actually does affect how you perceive the world. She mentioned pet dogs, and a very simple example that is very light, not extreme at all, is in English, we only have one word for eating. Like, everybody eats. In German, there are two words. There's essen and fressen. Both mean to eat, but Leute essen, so people eat, and animals fressen. So who is doing the eating, whether it's a person or an animal, is determines what they are doing. So in the German language, people who speak German would think of animals eating as inherently different from humans eating, and that creates a slightly bigger separation between humans and animals. There are also instances where if you dehumanize people, you would say fressen instead of essen to make it to basically call someone an animal, which is done by a lot of racists historically.
Okay. That makes sense, though, to demean somebody and to put them down and make them an other. That's what they would do.
Yeah. And but in English, we don't even think, we think of animals eating just like we would eat. But in other cultures, the way you phrase something, the way your language is constructed does actually impact how you perceive the world. There are cultures in sub-Saharan Africa where they don't have different words for blue and green, but they have multiple words for different shades of green. So if you show them a color wheel, they won't be able to tell the difference between blue and green. But if you show Westerners a similar color wheel, but with one shade of green that's different, and I've taken this test, I legitimately could not tell which shade of green out of all of them was different. And apparently people in this group that had the two different words for the two different greens got it like that every time. So the colors we see are influenced by the language we use. Yeah. And if something as simple as the wavelengths of light we perceive being interpreted in our brain can be affected by language, imagine how complex relationships or abstract thoughts of freedom can be skewed by just the words you use.
Mm-hmm. Well, right. And so much hinges in a relationship on communication as well. So it really does affect. That's the biggest issue that people have in a relationship a lot of the times is the lack of communication. So that makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. Cult leaders are changing the way you see the world in every single way, even the subtle linguistic ones.
Which is so strange. It's amazing. Should we keep going, please?
I'd say so.
Yes, please.
Cults use denigration and ridicule and humiliation as a control mechanism in the following way. In the cult, it has become your new family. And your whole status in this new family depends on them liking you and treating you nice. And if the leader keeps making fun and showing that you're a dope and that you just are a bad person, then you're so humiliated all the time. And you're going to keep working, trying to get in his graces and try to get some praise from the other people, so that in a rather harmful way, it's used as a motivator. It's not a mental health-producing motivator. But within those tight, controlled confines, it's used to show the leader is so pure, so above it all, so powerful, and you are this lowly follower.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes.
Most cults.
May I pause for a second? I was just going to say they shake your confidence. They really knock your ego down so that you have no, you know what I mean? I mean, it's really an ego dinger, and they put you down, and they make sure that you're dependent on them because of that, because you don't feel like you're going to be worth anything anywhere else. So
it's in a way, it's kind of like the military too. Their job is to break you down and then build you back up the way they want you to be built up.
Exactly.
So that you will fight as a unit and not as individuals. So I think cults are in a similar way. They build you, knock you down, build you up the way they want you to, so you'll think like them.
Yes, mold you in their image of what they want you to be. Shall we keep going, please?
Use of confession, and why?
Thank you.
It's one way for the leaders to learn things that you've done that you feel guilty about, things, and then they'll use your guilt to manipulate you more. Or they'll learn things you're very proud of and very haughty about. They'll use that to break your spirit. So when you confess, it's not just telling your history to the group. Some cults, I have seen the folders that they make on the members, so they write everything down. And some groups have one-on-one confession groups where the second person writes everything down. So that the idea of the confessing is to get information that will then be turned around to manipulate. And it's also getting the person, after a while, to confess to things, to say they want to be more like the group. They want to get in with the group, so that they're purging themselves in order to merge with the group. Certain groups give great praise for people getting up and confessing and breaking into tears and breaking down. Some of the psychological-based groups say that finally they've gotten insight. Finally they're feeling their primal pain. They're feeling their basic pain. Finally,
be vulnerable with that. And merge. Give up your individuality.
Yeah.
Be vulnerable. Tell us all of your weaknesses. That couldn't go wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Not at all.
Scientology, they use it for good purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And as
There's
I watch
so
these, I
much.
get more frustrated. It is just that. So when I want to make a point, it's like I lose my words. It's like,
yeah, exactly. The more I listen to her, though, I'm like, there's so many things that have cult-like traits. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
You know? Yeah.
And you see different levels of cult-likeness in so many different things. I mean, I've just been thinking about things all day about, watching flat earth videos. Some of them, they just, the way they just march in lockstep. It seems like it's.
I've been doing Sovereign Citizens lately, and it's just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
They are to me they're actually to me worse than flat earthers.
Yes, they are.
Oh, crazy.
Yes. Oh, it's always an us versus them. It's just incredible. It's just, yeah.
It is. And it shouldn't have to be, but it is.
No, it shouldn't. And you're right. And yeah. So should we keep going, please, Dick?
Different groups label
Thank you.
this breaking down in front of the group to serve their own ends, to tell the person, now you're behaving like we want. A pseudo-personality in the context of cult life refers to the personality that gets displayed after a person gets adapted to the cult re-socialization training. So that when relatives say, my son just doesn't seem like himself anymore, or a wife will say, you know, my husband has been going to all of these meetings and he's changed so much, he just doesn't seem like his old self. What they're describing is the elicited behavior that the cult is getting into place, that is displayed in social circumstances that call for it. And remember, the behavior learned in cults will wither if you're away from the cult long enough, because it is a superimposed identity. It is a pseudo-identity. It is a pseudo-personality. Within
maybe if they
most
were,
cults,
they wouldn't make you change who you were to be with them.
Buddy.
Did we freeze? Oh, okay. I thought we froze for a second.
Oh, okay. I did too.
Sorry, my daughter came in the room, so I was talking to her for a second.
There you go.
Oh, did I freeze?
Oh, sorry.
It seemed like it for a second, but maybe you didn't. We had like dead air for a few seconds.
Yeah, sorry. So should we keep going?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
the leader urges people to revise their personal history, and they don't do it blatantly and say, now, Jonathan or Jane, revise your personal history. What the cult leader in certain cults does is he wants to show newcomers that these people were such sinners, such awful people, drug users, just the worst criminals, that people that were just plain ordinary folks like the rest of us, just regular folks with no criminal record, no drug, no nothing, will get up and confess to histories that make them seem just like hideous people that have been saved by this group. Another reason that people's personal histories are revised in cults is to mostly convince them that they have not been good people ever and that they need the cult. There are a number of cults, both New Age and some, New Age closed groups, and some cults that do past lives, history work. When I hear from people their recounting of past lives that they worked on while they were in their cults, they come out still wondering, was it true? How did it happen? And that's part of the counseling and psychoeducation that's needed, is to explain to people how the words of the second person in the cult who helped do the eliciting of the past lives and training them how to have imagery that went with past lives became very adept at using words to trance the person out enough that the imagery that they made in their mind was very, very vivid, and the language of the trainer or whatever the second person in the cult was called helped them vivify this. And after coming out of cults, I've worked with people who said to me over and over again while I was in my cult, this person that worked with me on my past lives had me go over and over when I had been a violent man, when I had been a violent killer, when I tore heads off of babies, just the most gruesome things. Those are what are called pseudo-memories or confabulations, in which the event never happened, but the word power of the second person was organized in such a way as to get the person to create a false memory. And in cults, they come to think that, gee, that was their past life, and that they were these people that they have to name and deal with. And it has a really profound and relatively long-lasting impact on people.
And she's also saying this in the context of the 90s, where a few studies did come out saying that under the right conditions, it is actually not only possible, but generally easier than you would expect to get people to remember things that just never happened. You can get people to remember traumas and not even think it was a past life.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So that's the context in which she's talking about this. Like, this was...
Okay.
So I was thinking back to when they had those therapists for putting memories into heads of people who thought they were sexually assaulted as kids and found out they weren't.
Yes, that's one of them.
Yeah.
That was the most
Yeah.
that was the most well known.
Yes. And that ruined quite a few lives with that too, if I remember correctly.
It did.
Yeah. Because you're not just ruining the life of the accused, you're ruining the life of the person who now remembers this violent memory that never happened.
Right, right.
Right. So now they're suffering that again.
So they were violated, they were violated mentally.
Yep.
You know?
Yes.
And it's like, to me that's worse than physically, because at least physically you get over that, but mentally you never do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Exactly. Yes, it does make sense. It's exactly it too. Wow.
Yeah.
Should we keep going, please?
Let's keep going.
Okay.
We've come to see that a very important one of these effects is desensitization, in which, while you're in the cult, you come to see things done to other people, such as parents will have seen their kids beaten. They will have been instructed to lie and do things in which they have carried out conduct that was so against their conscience, but pretty soon they were totally desensitized to it. The street recruiters who raise money under false pretenses, for example, telling people on the street they're raising money for a drug rehab center, and they know the cult doesn't have a drug rehab center. They've been conditioned by the leader to think that it's all right to lie to these outsiders. They'll call them systemites, Babylonians, sinners. The cult leader will have taught them that they are the elite, and these outsiders can be, lied to because they're lesser beings, and that they're just restoring to God what's his, because the leader will have claimed that he's more powerful than Jesus, more powerful than Muhammad, more powerful than God. And these people really feel that within that system they're doing right at that time. And when they begin to think about it and finally leave, many of these people tell me about just unending guilt that they have about lying to people. and getting so puzzled at how could they have put their conscience on deep freeze like they did.
I mean, normal people can be turned so evil.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the next condition that needs
not
to be
hard to
present
turn.
is that it is in a system where you can't complain to management. You just acquiesce. It is a closed system in which management's always right, you're wrong. And see, within a cult,
Can we pause for a
the
second?
leaders don't.
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment about the last thing about the desensitization, because Commander 401 had a good comment about that. He said the Lucifer effect is how the Nazis turn normal people into the coldest murderers the world has ever seen, desensitizing people over time. And
Right.
he's right.
Yep.
And it's amazing. It's kind of easy to do. Obviously, we've seen it in history. It's quite scary.
Yeah. Nazis were normal people. Neo-Nazis were normal people. Incels, normal people. Like, we need to stop thinking of like genocidal maniacs as monsters and realize that it is so easy for us to get conditioned to do that.
Exactly.
Yes.
Because you don't, like, for example, I don't feel bad lying to my dog because she's not a person and also she doesn't understand English. But if you convinced me that this group of people were not actually human, so their like thoughts and feelings didn't matter, or they couldn't take care of themselves, or you convinced me that they were children and I was doing the right thing, lying to them wouldn't feel like a problem because I was really acting in their best interest. Like sometimes you lie to a toddler to shut them up, but you can't lie to adults. So you have to convince yourself that the adults are toddlers or dogs or whatever. I promise I treat my dog very well.
Yeah. There's sometimes where you don't mean to lie, but sometimes it's a necessary evil. But it's but I get what you're saying. It's like, I mean, how many genocide, for instance, to get people to kill other people, you have to make those other people look like they're not human.
Right. They're an other.
Right. They're an other. Exactly.
Yeah.
You compare them to rats. You compare them to vermin.
Yes.
It's not a problem to kill a rat, right? They're a plague.
They're bugs, roaches, whatever. Yeah.
Right. Right. Mosquitoes, anything,
That's scary.
Very
It
scary.
really is.
Yeah, they carry diseases.
Yep. This certain group will give you this, and and if you keep at it long enough, and you can definitely turn someone. We still see it today,
There are a lot of parallels between cults and fascists, and the parallels between like crazy hate groups like the Westboro Baptist Church that like is kind of a laughing stock, and effective hate groups like the Nazis it's kind of terrifying that the only difference is effective communication and manipulation tactics.
Right.
That's the difference. So if anyone you know is good at communicating, make sure they're not a terrible person, I guess.
Make sure they have good intentions. Okay? They just want to help you write a letter somewhere.
The difference between flat earth and a cult is effective communication.
Yes.
Use it for good, please, if you're a good communicator. Should we keep going, please?
Yes, please.
Little factions and segments, because the cult will come apart if factions are allowed to grow. So that's why they're totalitarian and autocratic. You see, in a democracy, you get many, many little factions, and in a democracy, we all get turns at running this society. One year it's your group, next year it's my group, another year it's someone else's. When you're running a cult, you don't let it get democratic. And you do everything you can to break up bonding between people and keep the bonding to the leader. There are cults where former members have told me that the leader said to them, "You're going to have to learn to obey." And as time went on, they learned more and more how to obey. And eventually the leader would say to them, "Even if I say 2 and 2 is 5, you must say 2 and 2 is 5.
There are four lights.
Yep.
The one I'm also thinking of too is Taming of the Shrew.
Yep.
Yes.
You know.
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly.
The one with
Oh.
the good one with Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor.
Yes, that was a
Yeah.
good one.
Uh-huh.
No, this is, as they've said, this is not a new thing.
No.
People
No.
have been manipulative and torturous since at least Shakespeare.
Right. Right.
Since the dawn of civilization,
Mhm.
practically.
Yep.
If they found a way to do it, they were
Pretty
going to do
much.
it to get ahead.
Exactly.
Yep. This next one is going to be interesting too because I already have thoughts on just reading the words, so this will be
yes. Oh
Yeah.
yes.
I'm already
Uh-huh.
thinking of a certain letter, so if we can- yeah.
Oh
so-
yes. I know which letter you're talking about.
yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah. Shall we keep going, please?
Keep going, please.
Those cult and closed group leaders who use prophecy, on the whole, keep just pushing the prophecy farther ahead in time and blaming the followers, saying, the prophecy didn't come true because you followers have not been doing your chores right. You haven't been meditating right, you haven't been praying right and enough. You have to do more and better. And that it's your fault, not the cult leader's prophecy that was wrong. You folks caused it. And they just moved the prophecy date forward.
Can we pause here for a second? Yeah, I wanted to talk about those repeated prophecies that keep failing. It just really reminds me of QAnon and all of those, how many times now is President Trump former President Trump supposed to be back in power again?
Yep.
Yeah.
4, 5, 6 times.
It was
People
like
are
March
Comments have
something,
brought up
and
Trump.
August something, and then they'll say it's another month now, and
Exactly. Next year, maybe 2022.
yeah.
It reminds me of that, and for some reason when I saw those words I just immediately thought of QAnon. And
it reminds me too of those people that use the Bible and decode the Bible and constantly make predictions on when the world's going to end.
Like Howard
Yes.
Camping.
Yeah.
Howard Camping, sorry.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
And was that the one that said the world was
Exactly.
going to end like on September 15th? It was like in the 80s.
Yeah,
or
he did a
something.
lot of numerology and just continually
And
kept
like
having to
5
adjust it.
Bibles and did
Yeah.
whatever code. And I remember my mother, we're driving on the day, and I'm like, Mom, isn't the world supposed to end today? She's like, yeah. I go, that's interesting. And then he comes out with, oh, it was really, in their day, it was really March, so they keep pushing the dates and pushing them. And then it never comes to materialize,
Yes. Woden Toad had made a good comment, and I do want to address that too because it does deal with things from today as well. She was talking about how using the puzzle piece is a way of othering people on the autism spectrum, and I do agree with that. Yes. And what I do with a lot of people, with the anti-vaxxers, a lot of the times what I do is when they, they'd rather die than have their kid die rather than have them have autism. Well, yes. And I can see that they're, dehumanizing people with autism and everything like that. So what I do is I come back with, well, Matt's really cool. He's got a dry sense of humor. It's awesome. He's really funny. He's got gorgeous green eyes. He, loves pizza. And this is what he wants to do later on in life. This is what goals we're working towards. This is what he finds fun and all this stuff. To bring him back as a person instead of this thing that's beneath everybody else just because of a condition.
Oh, exactly.
And sometimes it works, but sometimes these people are so deep in it, and that's why I think a lot of these groups are so cult-like. And I'm not saying they're cults, but they're cult-like.
Cult-like, exactly.
Exactly, just to make that distinction, because I know I'll probably get it if I don't. But it's, but they can't even see past that sometimes, and they just still they're just so focused on that thing that their group is saying that they just can't see past that, and it's
they can't
actually quite scary.
And to bring it back to how language affects that so much. Obviously, like, the people behind the puzzle piece are a terrible extreme example, but in our like everyday American English, like with slang, we have so many words that have ableist connotations. For example, a very common one, and a lot of accessibility and disability advocates have encouraged people and said, the thing you can do, one of the biggest things you can do is stop using certain words, because the words you use make it okay for people to actually commit violence against, commit slurs, and to view us as lesser. So like one of the more obvious ones is our synonym. Like in America, when we want to say something is uncool or just boring, we say lame, which is which started as a slur against physically disabled people. When we want to say something isn't smart, we'll often call it dumb, which is connected to a history of people who were unable, like deaf people or people who are unable to speak, being just considered less than, not smart. Same thing with words like idiot, which was basically the original R word. Like we have so much slang built into our own language that has a history of being demeaning, and it's like we are 100% good. Cults and these hate groups are 100% bad. It is all a spectrum.
Right.
It's a nuance. It's exactly. And that's one thing I keep saying too throughout the whole thing. And it's something that, like I said, we work on at home, nuance. There's so much nuance in everything. And it's just not, cut and dry like this or this. There's so much gray area in between there that, and like you said, nobody's 100% perfect. We've all used, you use those words.
It's not all black and white. There's grayscale.
Exactly.
It's grayscale.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, all righty. Shall we continue?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Dick?
It's running. It's just that it's quiet right now. I think but I can hear the actual video.
Oh, I got
background
you.
noise of it.
I'm not hearing it well. That's why.
Long pause on
so
this
that
one.
The entire
that's the whole thing. That's what I thought it wasn't moving.
Was being subjected to an organized, coordinated influence program that we're calling thought reform here. They're being taken a step at a time through what we just went through. They are unaware that they're being changed a step at a time. The old behavior is being pushed out, the new is being elicited, and that there are manipulations of various kinds of experiences and rewards from the group and so on being carried out to get the old behavior that they don't want and the new that they do want shown. And there's no complaining to management. Many cults and New Age groups and churches that are abusive, meaning some of the newer groups that use these types of thought reform and psychological manipulation techniques, a number of them have been taken to court by former members who seek redress for some of the psychological, financial, and other damages that the conduct of the cult or closed group produced. One doesn't sue about beliefs and so on. Our First Amendment says anyone can believe anything they want. But our laws say everyone's conduct, yours, mine, cults, conduct, can be taken to court, can be taken before law enforcement agencies and looked at. Through education, we can provide young people, as well as adults and even the elderly, how to critically evaluate when someone approaches them and makes an offering to them that sounds just too good to be true. We need to combat the cult problem by teaching critical evaluative thinking. We need to teach people to reason very well, and we need to teach people of all ages how to see faulty logic and to be skeptical when people make offerings to them. So I feel those two methods apply the laws that should be applied to any conduct that the cults do that's illegal, and for us to really do as much education as possible. And I hope that some of the people watching this video are mental health professionals who will get a feel for the need for psychoeducational explanations of how hypnosis works, how hyperventilation works, of how forms of influence, guilt induction, anxiety production are used in cults to manipulate and change and get people to stay, so that when people come out, mental health counselors can do more of an educational helping than, as some therapists do, just want to go back to your childhood and blame it on your folks and, you know, problems you had with your brothers and sisters. Unless counselors know about cults, they really don't know how to help you with what the problems are that you come out of cults with. And so many psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, counselors are getting much more in tune with how to help educate their clients about what happened in the cult, and not, as many therapists do, say, skip all of that, I want to hear only about your childhood. That's when your personality was formed. Personality can be changed and altered in adulthood, and that's what one sees the thought reform programs doing, altering the display of our basic personality and creating a pseudo-personality, the personality that you display while you're in the cult.
One thing I think we can take from this as well, like, that I think is the most important thing she said, is teach critical thinking. And that critical thinking is important on every point in the spectrum. So I'm not saying that, I want to make it clear, I don't think companies are cults, but an example of manipulative language that you need to think critically to avoid is, say your employer says, oh, well, I don't see this as a company so much. I see you all as family. I feel like we're all working together. Like, employers guilt you and talk about how they couldn't do this without you, except your employer can fire you without a moment's notice, and you're expected to give 2 weeks. If you feel bad about leaving an employer, that is on purpose. Like, employers use those tactics so they can underpay you, overwork you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's
Hey,
exactly
I think we got
it.
through that video. Oh, we got through the video, I think. Did we, Dick?
We did.
There's only 1 minute left, so I think it was just like,
I think it's just
BS
right?
at the end, right?
Yeah.
Yep, just the addresses and things that you can
basically more
call
of
a
a-
right to. Yeah. I don't know website. It just says call a right. I love it. Free internet.
Well, this is probably what, 90s? What we figured, what, 94, 93, 94, something like that. So
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if anybody in the chat missed either 2 weeks ago, I think, or this week's video or some of it, a really good TLDR of everything she talked about is the BITE model: behavior control, information control, thought control, and emotional control.
Yep.
Those are what make up a cult. All of them exist on a spectrum,
Yes.
and it slides to cult too fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. It's a very slippery slope.
Very slippery slope. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
Yes, that was a good video because I mean
That was a
it
good
took us
video.
2 shows to cover it, so that was
I
awesome.
mean, she did explain a lot, and
She did.
so very thoroughly explaining it, which I liked.
Absolutely. That was really good. And it was, I just still can't get over the fact that it was so good that we took 2 shows to cover it because it was
I
awesome.
know.
That was great. So what did everybody think of it? What did you think, Vishanti?
Well, it's really kind of sad listening to some of the analysis of, her breaking down the way they just kind of destroy and erode your sense of self. Because you think, well, this isn't me. It couldn't happen to me.
Yeah.
I'm too strong. I'm self-assured. And you
Right.
realize like it's a protracted, long process.
Yeah.
It's not something that happens overnight. And people that do this are really good at what they do. And that's kind of frightening,
Yeah.
insidious.
Yeah.
Yes. And we're all human, so nobody is immune.
Right.
Mhm.
And it
Have
just
to remember that.
it brings to mind, I mean, just my upbringing, my mother's upbringing. It's a cycle. You do what your mother does what their mother did, and so on and so forth. And so there's a lot of things in there that happened. But I've been recognizing those things as an adult, and hopefully, I still let things get to me, but I'm trying to not so much anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Matt singing in the background.
Hero, my
Sorry
hero.
about that.
It's okay.
Thank you. It's a good thing though. He's happy. So
Aw.
Thank you.
That's good though. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
I love it. I love
You need
listening
her to
because
be
it,
happy. Okay.
exactly. He's his own little person, and I just love that. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's amazing.
it is amazing.
Kids
So-
are amazing. I'll tell you.
They are. If anybody can bring you out of a funk after
It's your
being
kids.
sad about what humans can do to each other,
Right.
there you go.
Right. Go to your kids.
So-
Mine help me out every now and then, so that's good.
Exactly. So do we have any other videos, Dick, that we should play?
Yeah, there is a good follow-up video to that here.
Okay. Good.
How Cults Rewire the Brain by Diane Benscooter.
Okay.
How long is that one?
6 minutes.
Oh, thank God.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, people. It's doable.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think it's just what the doctor ordered. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So let's see what Diane has to say on these matters.
Yes, please.
My journey to coming here today started in 1974. That's me with the funny gloves. I was 17 and going on a peace walk. What I didn't know, though, was most of those people standing there with me were Moonies. And within a week, I had come to believe that the second coming of Christ had occurred, that it was Sun Myung Moon, and that I had been specially chosen and prepared by God to be his disciple. Now, as cool as that sounds, my family was not that thrilled with this. And they tried everything they could to get me out of there. There was an underground railroad of sorts that was going on during those years. Maybe some of you remember it. They were called deprogrammers. And after about 5 long years, my family had me deprogrammed, and I then became a deprogrammer. I started going out on cases, and after about 5 years of doing this, I was arrested for kidnapping. Most of the cases I went out on were called involuntary. What happened was that the family had to get their loved ones some safe place somehow, and so they took them to some safe place, and we would come in and talk to them, usually for about a week. And so after this happened, I decided it was a good time to turn my back on this work. And about 20 years went by. And there was a burning question, though, that would not leave me, and that was, how did this happen to me? And in fact, what did happen to my brain? Because something did. And so I decided to write a book, a memoir about this decade of my life. And toward the end of writing that book, there was a documentary that came out. It was on Jonestown. And it had a chilling effect on me. These are the dead in Jonestown. About 900 people died that day, most of them taking their own lives. Women gave poison to their babies and watched foam come from their mouths as they died. The top picture is a group of Moonies that have been blessed by their Messiah. Their mates were chosen for them. The bottom picture is Hitler Youth. This is the leg of a suicide bomber. The thing I had to admit to myself with great repulsion was that I get it. I understand how this could happen. I understand how someone's brain, how someone's mind can come to the place where it makes sense. In fact, it would be wrong when your brain is working like that, not to try to save the world through genocide. And so what is this? How does this work? And how I come to view what happened to me is a viral mimetic infection. For those of you who aren't familiar with mimetics, a meme has been defined as an idea that replicates in the human brain and moves from brain to brain like a virus. Much like a virus, the way a virus works is it can infect and do the most damage to someone who has a compromised immune system, right? In 1974, I was young, I was naive, and I was pretty lost in my world. I was really idealistic. These easy ideas to complex questions are very appealing when you are emotionally vulnerable. What happens is that circular logic takes over. Moon is one with God. God is going to fix all the problems in the world. All I have to do is humbly follow, because God is going to stop war and hunger, all these things I wanted to do. All I have to do is humbly follow, because after all, God's the Messiah. He's going to fix all this. It becomes impenetrable. And the most dangerous part of this is that it creates us and them, right and wrong, good and evil. And it makes anything possible. Makes anything rationalizable. And the thing is, though, if you looked at my brain during those years in the Moonies, neuroscience is expanding exponentially, as Ray Kurzweil said yesterday. Science is expanding. We're beginning to look inside the brain. And so if you looked at my brain or any brain that's infected with a viral mimetic infection like this and compared it to, well, anyone in this room or anyone who uses critical thinking on a regular basis, I am convinced it would look very, very different. And that strange as it may sound, gives me hope. And the reason that gives me hope is that the first thing is to admit that we have a problem. But it's a human problem. It's a scientific problem, if you will. It happens in the human brain. There's no evil force out there to get us. And so this is something that through research and education, I believe, that we can solve. And so the first step is to realize that we can do this together and that there is no us and them. Thank you very much.
It took them a week from teenager going to a peace march to the moon is God and I need to do a genocide.
That's scary.
How scary is that?
Wow. I remember those times. I mean, growing up in that time and seeing the Moonies, seeing the mass marriages, you know, and then seeing the Jonestown when that broke, and just the devastation. Because I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area at the time, and majority of the members that died were from the Bay Area, from the surrounding areas. They were really big over in that area, so it was very devastating to everybody, you know. And to know what happened, and then that's scary.
Yeah.
Very scary.
That's awful.
Yeah. It's very scary.
It really is. And it could happen anywhere, could happen to anyone at any time. And that's the bad part. And it was good. She kind of reinforced what we've been saying all along too, about how it's an us versus them.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be. It's, you know, all of that. So that was actually good. I was glad to hear that she said that. And
yeah, exactly.
And I can see where she got frustrated, especially with that kidnapping charge.
Yeah. Renee and me, Heaven's Gate. Yeah.
Yes, that's what it was. And wasn't there another one in the 80s that did that as well? But it wasn't such a large group. But they were waiting for the spaceship to come, and they all killed themselves as well.
Oh yeah, Heaven's Gate.
Heaven's Gate.
Heaven's Gate was that one, right?
Mid early 90s,
Yes,
somewhere there.
Jeez.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
Thank you, Renee and me, and thank you.
They all were dressed the same. They had $5 in their pocket.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they all committed suicide.
Yep.
What was the $5 for? Do aliens take?
It was their fare to get onto the ship.
Aliens in a spaceship
Isn't that crazy thought, though?
take American currency.
Right.
Also, your ticket to a spaceship is only $5.
I know.
Okay.
Isn't that cool?
I was born in the 90s. How bad was inflation during the 70s and 80s? Like,
Right.
I can remember talking the 70s. By the year 2000, if inflation kept going the way it was going, a hamburger would cost $400.
Oh my God.
I remember that so distinctly. That was amazing.
Yes, and when I got one of my first jobs, I was working at Libertier's, which is which eventually became part of Walgreens. It's a pack of cigarettes was $1.25.
Yes.
And now gas was 99 cents.
Yeah, I remember when I
now.
smoked, it was like 84. A pack of cigarettes at a 7-Eleven was $1.35, and I thought that was expensive.
wow.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, gas was even less than that.
When I started driving, when I was 16, I started driving myself to school. Gas was $4.25 a gallon.
Jeez.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it was. Still is
That's
over where
crazy.
I live.
I'm sure. Ooh.
Gone down and back up since then, but
But you have
man.
to remember too, when I had my first part-time job, I made maybe $3 an hour.
Yep.
So things were a little bit cheaper back then, you know?
Yes, they were. When I was working at the very first job at Hannaford was $5.75 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And that was quote unquote good money for
That was
doing
good
what
money.
I was doing.
Yeah, like, ooh, $3, all right. I'm making
Woo-hoo. Better than I did babysitting.
exactly.
Babysitting has always, like, growing up for me, babysitting always paid like twice as good
Yeah, it
as
did.
any like other job I could get, because parents were willing to pay you a living wage and companies were not.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. So
Yeah, a Commander 401 says my grandfather was paying people $5 an hour back in the 70s in his factory.
wow.
And that was good money, you know?
That was good money back then.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check an inflation calculator and see what $5 an hour
Would be now?
in the
Yeah, that'd be
70s would
interesting.
be now. So I'm gonna say 1975.
Okay.
$5. Okay, so your father, if he was paying in 1975 $5 an hour,
Mhm.
today that would be $25.37 an hour.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was good money.
Yep.
Hang on.
Yep.
That was good
the
money.
what's the minimum wage right now?
$7.25 in America. But
Where I'm at, it's
work.
14 an hour.
Oh yeah, where I live,
Still not 25.
yeah,
13.
where I live is
13.
15, but tipped minimum wage federally is $2.13 an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yes.
just a side PSA, if you cannot afford to tip 20% as a minimum wherever you
Right.
go out to eat, you cannot afford to go out to eat. If you cannot afford to leave a minimum tip of $7-8 when you go out to eat, even if your meal is less than that, you cannot afford to go out to eat. If you do not tip people, they will starve and freeze.
And from what I understand, people, even if they make a better hourly wage, even the government, when they do their taxes, they still assume they're getting at least 8% taxes.
Oh,
So they're taxed accordingly for that, even if they aren't.
yep. Google, like, there's a whole set of like bartender paychecks where like 2 weeks of work nets you $9 because the minimum wage is so low and they autofill like your tips. So after 2 weeks of working full time as a bartender, your take home pay ends up being like $9 or something.
Crazy.
And they just, if you're a bartender in most places, all of the money you earn is tips. So if you go to a bar and you order a bunch of drinks and you do not tip your bartender, they starve.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how that works. And it's terrible and it's wrong. And maybe I shouldn't be paying $15 for a drink if the bartender isn't getting paid. But that's the world we live in.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
And don't forget the places where they combine the tips and then hand them out at the end of the night.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I had a friend who got a job as a server and he was so happy to finally be a server because he could get tips. They got to keep 30% of their tips as per restaurant policy.
That's amazing.
Another thing, if you can, tip in cash because they don't have to report it. I remember when I was a tipped worker working a side job, I actually told people not to leave a tip on the credit card because I'm like, I'm not going to see a dime of that. It just goes to my boss. Like, they say they can't figure out how to allocate tips to me. So if you leave a tip on the little like iPad payment thing, that doesn't go to me. So leave tips in cash if you can, because those don't have to be reported to the boss.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that on some shows. It's like the boss gets majority of the tips. It's like, no. That's just wrong.
It's called wage theft. And by the way, wage theft is not a crime. So not even stealing tips, like, forget about stealing tips, which is just as evil. But technically, you cannot be thrown in jail if you steal from your workers. So say a worker steals $100 from the cash register, the worker probably goes to jail. Say an employer is $100 short on the paycheck every single week, that's not a criminal offense. Wow. And unless it's several $1,000s, it's not, the AG isn't even going to pay any attention to it.
You want to know something that's really crazy? Wage theft accounts for more theft than larceny, burglary, auto theft, and robbery combined.
Wow. And it's like twice as much. It's ridiculous.
That's
and
crazy.
It's not even close. Like, I'll pull up the graphic for you, but it literally is the most costly form of theft. And people are like, oh, I can't believe, burglars and white collar crime and all this. Like, no, it's literally wage theft. I put a graphic into the green room for you if you want to look at that. So, and because auto theft is 3.8 billion, robbery is 0.3, burglary is 4.10, and larceny is 5.3. That's nothing. That's compared to minimum wage violations, which is 23 billion plus 8.8 for overtime, plus 4 billion for rest break violations, plus 3.2 for off the clock violations.
Jeez.
Yep. And those are just the ones tracked.
That's disgusting.
Disgusting.
It is company policy frequently to ask you to show up before you clock in, to do managers go in and adjust your time cards after you leave, and they are counting on three things. One, that you don't notice until it's too late. And because you have direct deposit set up or whatever, and because you can't do all the tax math in your head and you trust them, usually people don't find out. Two, that if you find out, it's a small enough amount that either you won't do anything, or if you bring it to the courts, they won't do anything because it's not worth their time and attorney's fees. And three, even if it is a huge amount, you report it and the courts get involved, they can make you sign a non-disclosure in order to get your money. Which, by the way, there's not going to be any fines or punitive damage. It's just going to be just the money that you are owed. And maybe they have to cover attorney's fees because it's not considered a crime. They have no consequences for doing this, even if they get caught. And then they can make you sign a non-disclosure. And I was reading, a lawyer posted, said a very common thing is a non-disclosure, because many, many employers talk about how they would go out of business if everyone sued them for wage theft, because their business model depends on illegally stealing from their employees. And that's so common.
Jeez.
Oh, yeah. By the way, one thing about critical thinking, do not trust your boss ever.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
That's exactly
good advice. Good advice.
Not even with your pen.
Nope. It's crazy.
I think
it is crazy. And unfortunately, that's what you have to do to protect yourself in this day and age. I mean, it's...
Every single job I've had has promised me a raise and then either not followed through or given me less of a raise. Every single job I've had.
I had a job like that. I was after 6 months, I was the oldest person at the job. That's how much of a turnover there was.
Yep.
I was promised an hour. I was promised a 10-cent raise. This is back in '83. I was promised a 10-cent raise an hour. I would keep asking the manager, why am I not getting a 10-cent hour raise? Well, we're looking at the books, and if we can afford it, we'll give it to you.
Yeah,
I was promised one after 6 months. Never saw one raise. I was
you have to be like, listen, you want to tell me that there's a raise coming? Put it in writing.
Yep. And even if you put it in writing, they don't have to follow through. They can say, oh, well, the situation's changed. We're not doing as well as we thought we were.
Yeah, my situation's changed too, in that I am no longer an employee. Goodbye.
Yeah, that's basically what I did. I was in going to business school at the time. I'm like, I'm out of here. See ya. Yeah. And I just kept going to school and just dealt with that until I graduated.
Yep. And the number of people who have left for that reason in companies I've worked for, and then the company's like, great, we don't have to pay this person, and now we're going to just push off their responsibilities onto other unpaid people and say, oh, well, because you have all this work, you don't have time to replace this employee, and work just doesn't get done.
And I was living at home, so I didn't really need the job. It was nice to have it, but it was like,
right.
You know, my dad was like, hey, just concentrate on school, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So thank goodness for that. And that way you don't have to deal with, Exactly.
But, so do we have any other videos, or are we?
Yeah. Do we have another video,
like a
Dick?
short one, maybe, because it is half hour before.
Yeah.
An hour and a half.
Let's see here. We do have a couple. We have cult psychology. It is a long video, 37 minutes long.
Okay. We can save that for next time.
Yeah. Oh, we have one here. Let's see. How long is this? Oh, it's like 40 minutes.
Oh, gracious.
Okay.
Sorry.
We have one that is 10 minutes long if you took the vaccine, but maybe that was done and just not deleted.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because that has, because that's not.
Oh, that one's.
Yeah. We can still do it.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think, and we just did that 6-minute one. So
right.
Yeah, we have a couple of vaccine. Oh, we have one called vaccine control.
Oh, you want to do that one? Because it's sort of like the same thing. It's sort of
okay.
Yeah, you want to do that?
Let's do that one.
Just to add that one,
All right.
to make it a short video. We'll save the other ones for the next cult one. That'll be fun.
Yeah, cool. All right, so here we go. I'll switch over into go mode.
Awesome.
Hello. Sorry about the lighting. It's kind of early in the morning. Not a lot of sun coming through. I have to get some lights or something to make this a little better. But anyways, vaccine hesitancy. I can't even talk. What is it all about? Well, I mean, again, as I said earlier, I really don't care if people get vaccines or not. It's their life, their body, do what they want. But the politicians and a lot of people are going crazy over it. And I think part of the hesitancy is, well, we have an entire party of the American government swear up and down, which is the Democrats, swore up and down that they were not going to get the vaccine. They don't trust the Trump vaccine in any way, shape, or form. I mean, they even called to question the CDC itself. And yet, once they have a president, they completely flip. And now they say, oh, it's 100% safe. Without explaining why, what changed their minds. They never explained it. You know, actions have repercussions.
Okay, this
You
is
can't
a
get on national
bullshit straw man argument.
It is.
Because I don't remember any Democrats saying they wouldn't get Pfizer or Moderna or J&J. I don't remember any Democrats saying they wouldn't get the Trump vaccine. He's full of shit, and he knows it, and nobody changed their minds. Every Democrat I know, every Democrat in leadership, like, I don't know too many, like, down the line Democrats, because everyone I know is young and therefore just functionally a communist to these people. But everyone was saying, get the vaccine. We need the vaccine. We trust, like, the FDA. Like, we trust this international collaboration of scientists trying to help people. Mm-hmm. And those of us who actually know a little about science actually read the websites, read the ingredients lists.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's a straw man. This group of Democrats who changed their mind doesn't exist. He's full of shit.
They're doing the us against them argument. He's doing the us against them argument.
Exactly.
You know? And it's because of the Republican president, we're not going to do it. But as soon as the Democrat said, oh, okay, it's a good thing now. Yeah, he's doing that kind of thing.
Right, and whining about it.
Yeah.
The only people who I saw throughout the whole thing that were, I'm not going to take this, were already rabid anti-vaxxers anyway. So it didn't matter what side of the aisle they were on. They were just anti-vaxxers, and that's all That's all I saw that were denying, I'm not going to take that. It's
Yeah,
just another
yeah.
one. I'm not going to, you know what I mean. So-
And now what are they going to do now that the Pfizer vaccine's been approved,
Yeah.
FDA approved?
See, that's
Yes.
exactly what I was saying in our show last night, is
Yes.
that was just an
Yeah.
excuse that
Yeah.
they were saying because they wanted it to sound like they were trying to take science into account, but it's
Right.
just an excuse. And now that it's been, fully approved, which Moderna's going to be up next, they're
Yep.
just going to move the goalposts. 'Cause that's what
Exactly.
they do.
And they'll just keep moving it, moving. I mean, the government could come up
absolutely.
with a cure for cancer, and these people would have an issue with it. Do you know
Yes,
what
I mean,
especially if it
yeah,
involves
it's
the
become their
vaccine.
whole identity. It's
Because
because
it's
it's
the
not
government.
about research, it's
God.
not about science,
No.
facts, or anything like that. It's an identity based on their politics.
Yep.
And it's anti-government, anti-authoritarian. Don't tell
That's
me
all
what
it
to
is.
do. You can't be trusted. It's us and them.
Yep.
Again, yes, it's the us and them.
Yep.
We have a super chat. Did you want to read it, or do you want mommy to take it?
Got this cover for £5 said. Can this be me? Got this cover for £5,000 said.
Sure, go ahead. Read it, honey. And calm
Yes,
down,
it can be
relax.
me.
Yes,
Said,
it can be.
Can you read it?
I can't see, damn it.
Right there, honey.
I don't know if this is a controversial opinion or not, but anti-vaxxers are wankers. I'm your hater.
They are.
You're a hater.
They are.
Agree.
They're wankers.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Yes, I do too.
Oh. Oh my goodness. Wow. Should we continue with the video some more?
Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
please. Let's listen to this guy whine a little bit.
Yep.
Week after week after week after week, and say, as a party, the vaccines, you can't trust the vaccines, you can't trust the vaccines, you can't trust the vaccines. And then when you come to power, say, oh yeah, now it's magically 100% safe, without explaining
That
how you
can't
changed your
happen.
mind, why you changed your
That
mind.
didn't know. Exactly.
That's just a lie. It was always Republicans who were
But if you
saying,
notice his wording, you can't trust the vaccines, you can't trust the vaccines, you can't trust the vaccines. That's him putting words
yep.
Yeah.
in their mouths.
Yes, exactly.
Even though he said, I don't care if you have the vaccine or not, he cares whether you have the vaccine or not. His words sound like his words are giving it away.
Also, if you say you don't care whether someone else gets the vaccine or not, it means you have a fundamental failure to grasp the concept of the CDC wants us to call it community immunity. It's herd immunity, but the Republicans fucked the term.
Oh,
Because they're like,
that.
Yeah.
they were like, oh, herd immunity. That's just when everybody gets sick and then the weak
No,
die.
it's
And so,
not.
Yeah, really. Fucking.
no, that's not what herd immunity
You know what that
is.
means?
So you have a
Immunity
fundamental,
just sounds stupid.
you have a
Yes.
fundamental inability to understand herd immunity / community immunity.
Yeah.
And another thing too, if he didn't care, he doesn't seem to care about other people getting the vaccine. Well, he apparently did, because he even sat down and made a video about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Trying to convince people that, you know,
Really?
it's us against them.
Also, this is a side note, but he's using the default Zoom background and his video
really?
quality is Zoom,
It is.
which means
Yeah.
he started and recorded a Zoom meeting.
For okay. All right.
Yeah,
whatever.
no, this is just I'm mad as like a YouTuber who tries to make high quality videos.
Right.
This is just really low quality. Like the lighting is terrible, the Zoom background is bad. And it's like, I get it. I didn't always have good lighting. I didn't always have good audio equipment. Like those were expenses
Yeah.
that I bought with Patreon money. But even at the start, I at least tried. I was like, let's get some natural light. Let's put on a green screen so I can do a good background. Like this is some bullshit right here.
Yeah. Or you do like I do. I have an avatar. I don't put myself on camera
Yep.
because everything I do is scripted, because I can't talk off the cuff in a video. I would take me forever to make one video if I did that.
I mean,
So,
he can't talk off the cuff either. He just
No.
doesn't know how to edit.
yeah, true that.
Mm.
YouTube poop should have died in the 2000s.
My God.
All right, let's keep going.
How did that conclusion come to be? They have yet to explain it. It's as if they just came into power and everything just magically changed. Now it's all for the good.
Oh my god.
And now the very thing they did, which is question the vaccine. Now they're attacking people to question the vaccine.
Sure they
It
are.
doesn't make any sense. When Trump was president, it was okay to question the vaccine. Now that Biden's president, it's
Oh
not
my
right to
God,
question the
no,
vaccine,
it's not.
which was what the Democrat passed.
Dude, he's just whining.
He is whining so hard.
It is. For someone who doesn't care, he sure cares a lot.
Exactly.
This is too funny.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Oh my
Okay.
god.
oh.
And no one's attacking people who quote unquote question the vaccine. It's usually the other way
I
around.
am.
It's usually the jerk who, Yep. You're scared. You're this, you're that, the other thing. Yeah.
My wife and I did put a note on our wedding website that we will be requiring vaccine cards for entry.
Smart.
Mainly because in Chicago, that's like the current law is that actually they may have changed. They may have changed the mask mandate, but when we sent out invites, the law was you cannot have unmasked people indoors. So like to follow the law, we're just going to make sure everybody is vaccinated because we don't want to deal with people wearing masks. And if that means that some of our anti-vaxxer distant relatives can't come to the wedding,
Oh well.
darn, no,
Yeah.
stop. And hey, maybe some of them will get vaccinated because they love us. Who knows?
Because I mean, it only takes one person to spread it. So I'm
Yep.
Yeah.
better
Yeah.
to safe than sorry.
And if one person comes with COVID, say everybody has Pfizer and there's a no chance of anybody getting hospitalized, but there's still a 10% chance of catching it and being able to
Right.
spread it.
Yep.
Mhm.
150 person wedding, that means 15 people, one person enters with COVID. That means 15 people leave with COVID.
Yeah.
And if any of them aren't vaccinated, that means one of my loved ones or one of my wife's loved ones might go to the hospital. That means one of them might infect a child. Like, no, not doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fully vaccinated and I still wear a mask.
Mhm.
Yeah, same.
There's just so much the Delta variant and so much crap. I don't want to get it.
Yeah. And like,
You
my
know?
wife and I have talked about how if we're going to travel soon and we're going to wear masks at the airport and everything, we're not terrible, but we've decided we're not going to quarantine right after, but we are going to avoid any interactions with anyone under the age of 12.
Okay.
And luckily neither of us work with kids, so we can do that.
Right.
I cannot imagine being a school teacher right now and having to
Oh,
deal with
God,
that
can you imagine?
responsibility.
God.
Right. We're just
I'm
not going to talk to kids.
yeah.
We're sorry, but we don't want to get you sick. And
Exactly.
right. We
Right.
witness
Because
for
kids have
symptoms.
been dying of this.
Yep.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly it. Luckily enough, Matt is fully vaccinated. He's starting tomorrow. And he's really good about wearing his mask. And
Good, good.
the
Nice.
school, thank you. And the school has a really comprehensive, really good plan. Like I said, I can't sing my school system's praises enough. They've been amazing throughout his whole career. And
That's so
yeah,
awesome.
thank you. So they've got a whole plan in place. He's all set to go.
Yep.
I've been in emails with his teachers for the past couple of weeks and we're all set to go. So
Good.
With-
Yay.
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah.
That's
So
10th grader now.
That's amazing.
yes, I know. He's excited. What
Getting so
classes are you
big.
excited about?
More math classes.
More math classes. He's
Oh.
excited.
Yes, math classes.
So I'm all excited about this too. So I'm going to take some refresher courses that someone sent me. So
Yeah, this is about when they get high school's when they get the required classes too in there. Gotta
Yes.
take this, gotta have that.
got to take that. Yeah, it's going to have the algebra, got to have the geometry and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yes, yes.
So I'm excited. This is going to be really good. And
Sweet.
Thank you. But they have such a great plan for everything going on. They've already sent out the forms to be filled out, you know, for the testing, because they're going to do pool testing. And then if someone in that small pool tests positive, then they'll retest everybody in that pool individually. So
Yeah.
we're all set with that. They're going to test every morning as they enter into the school. They're going to, you know, everything is all taken care of. It's people like this who are putting a cog in the, you know, just putting a rock like in the gears of society right now. They're just they're not helping. They're not helping schools. They're not helping. No, they're not helping anybody. They're not even helping themselves, and sadly they can't see that.
I mean,
because we have to worry. Even though he's fully vaccinated and wears his mask perfectly fine, we have to turn around and still worry about the parents who are like this guy, or think closely to what this guy believes about how these vaccines, you know, nobody trusts them. There's this, that, and the other. And then you have the extreme anti-vaxxer. Yeah, exactly. And so that's, I do worry about that. I do, you know, I have a lot of mixed feelings about him going to school tomorrow. You know, great that he's going and he gets to see his friends again. But the guilt sending him because of what's that?
All have to wear masks. All the kids have to wear masks at school to attend.
Kids, adults, everybody. Doesn't matter who it is. If you enter the school, you have to have a mask.
Gotcha. So, because I can recall, I watched a video. It was a forget where it was now, and I have it downloaded. But it was for a public school. It was a superintendent's meeting. In Kansas, and it was one guy was so adamant, my kids are not going to wear masks, and God, I pulled my kids out of I pulled my kids out of school. We'll teach them from the home. It was like, oh my God, dude, serious. He was that angry.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm just like, seriously,
parents. Damn, dude.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my God, you don't give a shit about your kids.
It's awful.
That's my attitude with them. Yeah.
Because of all this misinformation going around, like this guy is spreading, and like
masks
those
are bad for kids.
Spreading.
No, they're not.
No, Matt's been wearing one this whole time, and he's perfectly fine. The doctor checks him all the time, and he's fine.
It's crazy.
I know.
All right, shall we continue with this person?
Sure, we'll do a few more minutes of this jerk.
I'm trying not to say a bad insult.
What he was doing. And large numbers questioning the vaccine. A lot of them saying they weren't even going to take it. Now they're saying you have to take it because now it's 100% better. But they never explained how. They never explained to the American people what changed their minds. How did they come to that conclusion? Because I think if they did, they might get better results than the current results they have. We're at 67%. The last time I checked, 67% of the United States is vaccinated, and it's been staying there. It's been steadily staying there.
Did you say 69%? Oh, 67%.
Even
so
with
close.
this new Delta variant.
Yeah.
It hasn't caused it to go up like they said it was gonna. It's causing it to stay the same. So really, these politicians.
The vaccination rate or the case rate? Because the case rate has definitely gone up.
The case rate has gone up. Oh, yes, it has.
And I don't know.
I think he's talking about the vaccination rate, though.
numbers.
I think he's talking vaccination rate, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, in my county alone, last month, the cases of because of Delta and COVID went up 400%.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
80% of the people that are in hospitals because of it were unvaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we had a whole show about
telling.
this.
That's very telling right there.
You can just do a simple search that hospitals across the country are reporting that the overwhelming majority, from 70% up, of their ICU beds are filled with COVID patients who haven't been vaccinated.
Yeah, on the on the way back during our road trip, I saw a lot of billboards, and one of them said 97% of all of our inpatient, like everyone who has COVID at this hospital, was unvaccinated.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, and by the way, I'm not sure, like, I'm just going to present this neutrally. It's a headline I saw today. Texas anti-mask movement leader dies of COVID-19 after 3 weeks.
Oh yeah, been that we did like a whole show on this last night on the bunker.
Yep.
It was all about people who either were just vaccine hesitant, or they were conservative talk show hosts, or they were ardent anti-vaxxers or anti-mask and all this other stuff, and they're dropping like flies. I mean, it's all over Time, Newsweek, USA Today, Facebook, Twitter. Like, you can just search for anything that's happened in the past week. And this doesn't have to happen, people.
It doesn't. It's preventable.
You've already paid for the vaccine with your tax dollars. It's free. Go fucking get it. It's free.
Local pharmacy, wherever you can get a shot. Go get your damn vaccine.
Freaking Walmart.
My friend's father actually works in corporate for a company that has a factory in Georgia. And they were actually able to get 10% of the factory workers to get vaccinated by bringing the truck to them and offering $100, just $100 to everyone who got vaccinated.
For an incentive.
Nice.
So you have to give them an incentive to get them to get
10% got vaccinated.
Oh, good.
Wow.
Several of them, when asked if we make vaccination a requirement for working, said they would rather quit their jobs than leave. And the corporate office is like, well, we keep having COVID outbreaks. We can't deal with this. We're planning to lose half our workforce because we're trying to bribe them. And it's also very insidious. And to bring it back to cults a little, like, there is a social aspect. For example, there was one employee who emailed like a person in HR and was like, hey, I would like to get vaccinated, but I don't want to be seen walking into that van because I'm scared of what people will do to me. And
oh my God, why are we like this?
Exactly.
So then,
so frustrating.
They had to basically say, okay, if you show proof of vaccination, by the way, here are all of the other vaccination sites within walking distance. Here are the ones open before, during, like before your shift, during lunch breaks, after. If you show up, they'll give you a shot. If you're a little late to work, we will cover for you.
Right.
When you we will do all of the work for you and give you $100.
Man, why couldn't they be bribing people like this when I got my shot?
Honestly, where was my Soros check?
Right. Jeez. Mark Beiser, I feel the same way. He said, I feel bad for that dude's family, but I find the e-begging pathetic. The trend is someone is either vaccine hesitant, aka they're just making up excuses, or they're like anti-government, super right-wing conservative, don't trust the government, don't tell me what to do, take, livestock dewormer, blah, blah, blah.
God.
And then they get put on a ventilator and they die. Yeah. And then their family starts going, we set up a GoFundMe to pay for the medical bills. Oh my God.
Honestly, as much as the health system is terrible, what if there was a law that insurance companies could treat not being vaccinated for COVID-19 as a pre-existing condition that could disqualify you?
Why don't we just solve the fucking root problem of people needing to not go bankrupt to pay their medical bills by socializing healthcare like every other civilized nation on the planet?
Well, yes, obviously that's a good answer.
That and we also need
one
health insurance reform.
Yeah.
A lot under health insurance reform.
I mean, grief. Literally no other first world countries are going bankrupt because of medical procedures. They're looking at her like, what's wrong with you guys? And we're like, we don't know everything.
That's, like I say, that's not the healthcare itself. That's the insurance companies.
God, we don't even get healthcare that's proportional to what they're charging you.
Is just amazing.
Yeah, our healthcare, we pay like literally thousands of times as much for really shitty healthcare.
Yeah, we're not getting, like I said, we don't get proportional care to the prices though.
Oh yeah, our healthcare outcomes are worse.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's like I understand how they're like, oh no, we're stuck in a really bad position, and like that does suck. I mean, honestly, having to pay for all of the intubation and the bed and the care, and I get it. It's hard. It shouldn't be this way. But on the other hand, I feel petty. I feel petty that I'm like, you know what? You intentionally refused to get something that would have prevented this. Your case could have been mild at best.
I mean, even before COVID-19, even before COVID-19, there were cases, like I remember reading one case of of the child of like all natural crunchy anti-vax parents stepping on a nail, getting gangrene, dying a very painful death over the course of months, racking up literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical
Yep.
and the parents still refusing to vaccinate their other children.
Right.
And like I remember my mom, like my mom is very, so my family, like there is a switch that flips for all of us when like anyone harms a child, like we'll be completely civil.
Yeah.
And then like somebody mentions like a child in pain or a child getting harmed, and every single one of us like just like immediately livid.
Yeah.
And my mom like freaked out reading this case. It was actually one of the many things that convinced her and my dad to become foster parents. And my mom was like, okay, the other two children need to be like they should not be allowed to keep the other two children.
No.
And someone was commenting like, oh, well, haven't the parents suffered enough? They already lost one child. You shouldn't take away their other two. And I come in and I'm like, oh, no fucking way. First of all, who gives a shit about the parents in this situation? The other two children are in a dangerous environment where their parents have been deemed unfit. The safety of the child is the only thing that matters.
I get really angry because if you're an adult, you're just doing it to yourself. You know better and you're still doing it. But for a child, they don't have the life experience. They don't have the ability to take care of themselves or live on their own or do anything like this. So you're just doing it to another person.
Yeah, even if they wanted to get vaccinated, they couldn't. It's not like they could just show up at the first, even if like they stole a car and showed up at the pediatrician's office. Like, what's an 8-year-old gonna do? Hi, I'd like to be updated on all of my shots, please. I don't have an appointment. I don't remember my doctor's name. I feel like I should just get some nurses, get a bunch of vaccines, drive to like several schools and be like, hey kids, want to come into this van and get vaccinated?
It's free vaccines.
Dude. The thing is, it's like it's not fully available for, certain age groups yet. And that sucks.
Yes,
so it literally is up to the rest of us to make sure that our immune systems are fighting this thing off to protect the children. Literally, someone think of the children for real, though.
Exactly. They should be able to have it. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. Yes. I know they're still trying to test and get all the data and shit, and I'm just like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, and it is
right now. We did the 16-year-olds and everything, and the 12-year-olds. Now it's
and it is important, like especially when you have really young kids. Often dosages need to be changed. Like it is actually a problem. Like
from what I understand, if you know the pothole, his kids are getting vaccinated.
Yeah.
So over there in Texas, they are doing that.
Okay.
Trying.
Or trying to, at least.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing, But you're right. It's the dosages, the weights. It all varies. It all varies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Basically, doctors are super cautious for a reason.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is doubly ironic considering that one of the many excuses that these people are using is, well, it's rushed and they're not testing it and I don't want to be a lab rat. It's like, this is what the clinical trials are for.
Which is
true. If you haven't already, go watch my vaccines video. I will take you through, like, I literally take you through the testing process, the development process, the manufacturing process, like the number of people. Also, Pfizer was FDA approved, so my video is slightly out of date. But
well, that just happened, so we'll forgive you.
Let me tell you a story about how clinical studies work because I was in one. Not for this. Okay, a couple years ago, I got an email from a research company that was like, "Hey, we're doing a migraine study. We want to test a different type of migraine prevention. So instead of taking something after you've gotten your migraine and just trying to get past it, for instance Imitrex and sumatriptans and stuff like that, anything in the triptan family, they're like, we're going to try to make a protein that actually prevents them or at least lowers their severity enough to where you can actually manage it and not feel like you're going to black out or puke." So I was like, sign me up. So I signed up, and the scientific name is really hard to pronounce, but I did this trial for I think 9 to 10 months. And, they take your vitals, they do your weight, they do blood samples, they give you the injection and, watch for side effects. And you report in this it looked like a little shitty Samsung phone that you would report in your diary every day about how you're feeling. And if you have a migraine, what the symptoms are and how bad it was. And you do this every day for almost 10 months. And when it's over, they go, okay, here's your substantial financial compensation. And you turn your little phone back in and you just kind of wait for the results after it's, been made public. Long story short, this drug is now on the market and has been for about a year. It's called Emgality, and I helped test it.
Yay!
Excellent. Well, thank you.
Yeah, and I know it's a double-blind study, so I'm not 100% sure whether I got the placebo or the actual thing, but I suspect it was the actual dosage because the reaction of my skin around the injection site, it did get a little bit red and swollen every time, but it may just also have been because the nurse was rubbing that injection site really hard afterwards. But yeah, and I remember I took photos of it. They're like, I don't know if you're having a reaction that might disqualify you or da-da-da-da. I was like, no, it's fine, trust me, I'm not experiencing any shortness of breath, I'm not having any wackadoo antenna growing out of my face or anything. So I wanted to keep going because I wanted them to have data about this. And sure enough, if you look up Emgality, there'll be side effects include, redness at the injection site, but you just inject this dosage about once a month, and it either knocks out your migraines entirely for certain people or it mitigates their severity by a lot.
That's amazing.
It was the greatest. And I remember begging the nurse after the study was over, my last session, she takes my last set of vitals, I turn in my phone and all this stuff. And I was like, please, can I stay on this? It's so great. And she was like, well, you technically don't have enough migraines per month to qualify for compassionate care. I was like, what? Because I was having fewer than 15 a month. And she was like, you have to have 15 a month, chronic, not just episodic, migraines. And I was like, I can lie and say I'm getting 50.
And I get it all the time.
Wow.
America's healthcare system is fucked.
It is.
I know.
Yes, it is.
I know. And I was like, for Pete's sake. But yeah, it's so funny because I remember seeing advertisements for this thing and going, oh my God, I tested it. I was like the Leonardo DiCaprio snap.
Right,
meme. I tested that.
You became the meme.
Yeah.
Right.
It was really cool. And I remember people going, oh no, maybe you shouldn't do a clinical trial. You're going to be a hamster. I'm like, it's fine. And I needed the money.
Question, was the money enough to afford the drugs?
I don't know how much the actual prescribed cost is. That's a good question that I should look up.
There we go.
Because there's ways you can do it through your insurance, and then there's ways that you can just do it with their discount program. I actually don't know what the actual cost is. But yes, I think the check that I got at the end of the study, plus the one that I got about midway through, would have been enough to cover at least 6 to 8 months just paying for it without
Wow.
like insurance. So
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome.
that's me ballparking it. I don't know. I don't have the hard numbers
Yeah.
because I haven't looked up
Well, at
the.
least you got substantial payment.
Yeah, it was
for
nice.
You know,
It
it's
was
Yeah.
quite nice. To me, the amount they gave me was a lot. It may not be a lot to some people, but it was a shit ton to me.
Right.
Exactly. Well, we
So-
crossed our 2 hour. That's awesome. We crossed our 2 hour mark. So let's go right around the room quickly and see how everybody thought of the evening. How about you, Glober Mom? What did you think?
Learned a little bit more about cults, and so it's very interesting. I really enjoyed it. I just wouldn't say cults, but cult-like traits and things that they can apply to almost anything.
Yes.
So, but yeah, it was an interesting night. Yeah, I enjoyed it very much. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait to have you back for some more of this because I'm sure we'll find some more stuff on
I'm sure you will.
but having too much fun with it.
Oh yes.
Yes. And how about you, Bad Astra? What did you think of tonight?
I had a great time. I'm sorry I've been very loopy tonight because I just haven't slept in my own bed in several weeks. But I think one comment that stood out from the chat, I won't say who it was somebody mentioning that like the woman who was talking about cults wasn't super interesting to listen to.
Yeah, I saw
and
that one.
Here's the thing, I agree. A big part of that is that science, like being a scientist and being a communicator, are two very different skills.
Right. You can't all be Neil deGrasse Tyson. Sorry.
Yeah.
Scientists generally aren't rewarded for good communication, and often like there is a culture that like teaching or communicating science for a scientist is somehow lesser than doing research.
Right.
And a lot of communicators aren't great scientists. Like it's okay.
Right.
Those two can be different skills.
This is part of the CDC's problem.
Yeah, I was going to say because they're two different skills. That's why people don't learn about cults. That's why people don't learn about vaccines. That's why there's so much misinformation out there.
Right.
And
Yes.
Yep.
it's a huge problem. Everybody like get yourself a favorite science communicator. I volunteer if you want, but like yeah, how can I turn this into a plug for my channel?
Exactly.
Everybody just learn science. If you are bored out of your mind reading the CDC's website, me too, find a science communicator. There are people who are good communicators, and just listen to what they have to say, because misinformation is a huge problem. And if you write off people because they are bad communicators, that will lead to a problem, because cult leaders are great communitators.
Yeah.
So
That's their appeal.
yeah, communication is not a
great
skill. It does not make you right or wrong.
Exactly.
Right. Right.
And to be fair, she did give very good, succinct information.
Yep.
Yes, she did.
She was understandable. You can understand every single word she was saying. It wasn't like
It's
it
very
was
dry.
big words beyond but because it was entertaining, oh well. I mean, that's not her job to be entertaining.
Right. No, she was just presenting her information, and that's her job. So yeah, and I get that too. So Vishanti, what did you think of this evening?
I think that this information was very helpful, and I don't necessarily mind dry communicators if I'm enough interested in the topic. If it's something that I don't know a lot about and I'm not super invested, then yeah, I'm probably going to turn it off, so I don't blame you.
No,
And
I get it.
yeah, so we definitely need to invest quite a bit in communications training for people so that we can get the proper information out in a way that's easy to digest and easy to remember and things like that. So looking at you, CDC.
Exactly.
And slightly unrelated, but I did look up what this migraine treatment was. It's a CGRP antibody migraine, which is the calcitonin gene-related peptide. So It
Interesting.
was developed to bind to the substance in the brain that might play a key role in migraines and block its binding to the receptors. So, if you're scientifically, biologically minded, that is some information for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
You didn't ask, but there it is.
There we go. And last but not least, we have Dick Dawson. What did you think of this evening?
That was great. The cult stuff is very interesting. The way we went about it, not listening to morons, but listening to somebody very educated talk about morons, was very cool.
I'd like to do that again.
Yeah. That worked out well. It's just finding the right videos, because some people will go nuts if you do that. Other people don't care, right?
Right.
That other guy, he's what's left over when you take a dead sea otter and rip it by the balloon knot inside out.
Oh my God.
Just an opinion, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct.
Exactly.
In my opinion, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
That's right. He was a whiny.
He
little
was.
jerk. So,
He had
very
nothing in
windy.
substance. Just they were this way, and then they were this way, and that was it.
Why like a 12-year-old?
I can
Why
say
make a
words
video?
too.
Should make it a short video. That's all. You should have made it a short. Would have been succinct, to the point, and done in 30 seconds.
Exactly.
God.
Exactly.
What about you, Amy?
Well, I thought it was great too. Thank you. I really learned a lot about, cults and things like that. And I am into these topics because I'm really into psychology. I want to pursue a career in it. More than likely, I'm going to be going towards the behavioral side. Thank you.
Oh, nice.
So,
Hell yeah.
thank you. So I'm looking at going to school. So I'm going to, now that Matt's going to school, I can have a few moments to concentrate on getting the applications in for spring semester. So hopefully, so we're going to see about that. So I'm really fascinated about stuff like that. That last guy was just a whiner. He was just dumb.
Such a big whiner.
Exactly. But I want to thank everyone for coming in the panel, for coming tonight. And I want to thank everyone for sticking with us tonight as well, because we did go over time, which is perfectly fine because it was a good show. So thank you so much. And because we had so much to talk about on it. So it was good. So thank you very much, everyone. And I wish you all a great evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
panel, or thank you, chat. Thank you, panel.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Good night, everybody. Eat snacky.